Hi guys, I'm Antonia and I work as a front-end developer and technical trainer here in softtuernia, and our guest today is Lyubomir, a cybersecurity expert who has been working on many years on cybercrime investigations with countries across Europe, the United States, Russia, New Zealand and others. Hi Lubu, and welcome to today's podcast. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us something more about yourself?
Thank you, Antonia. First of all, let me thank all of you guys joining us here at this podcast. I hope it will be interesting to you, and I'm looking forward to really this interesting interview together here with Antonia. So a couple of words about myself. I'll try to, get rid of looking at the camera. So my name is Lyubomir Tulev, and, I've started my career back in 2010, actually, when I first started as a cybercrime investigator, a position within our national cybercrime units. And just, 2 years later, I became the team leader of this group. Basically, me and my team, we have been dealing with cybercrime investigations and international perspectives, meaning that we had a lot of opportunities to, work together with a lot of colleagues from entire Europe, the United States, New Zealand, Russia, just to name a few of them. Moreover, back in 2015, I've been recognized as one of the, top 10 international cybercrime investigators globally by FBI. So I became part of their international task force members, which actually gave the Bulgarian cybercrime department a lot of opportunities. And we have been able to, get a list of a lot of information coming and going through the FBI liaison officers. 7 years spent there, at some stage, I decided just, to move forward and basically to start growing my career. And it was very organic, actually, to move and to switch now to the private sector, where I'm currently involved in a private company. Basically, I'm dealing with cybersecurity. And in this company where I currently am employed, I do penetration testing, social engineering, I do consultancy, cyber forensics, trainings. And here's the moment actually to mention that I'm also a trainer within this softtuernia, which I'm very proud of. That's briefly about myself.
Okay, I'm curious to know what inspired you to become a cybersecurity expert. So how did it all start?
Well, the fact that I've been involved in the police structure for 7 years means that I've been first inspired in, this feeling of helping and protecting people. My education is, I've graduated as a bachelor degree in our National Police Academy. Somehow I became the best cadet in the class, which actually we had in the police academy this rule. Whoever is the best cadet in the class, he has the chance to choose where exactly to start to work within the Ministry of Interior in the next 10 years. So, this was back in 2010, and I just decided, well, this should be the cybercrime investigations. So I first started with cybercrime investigations, with helping, protecting people. But, as I already have mentioned, when I reached a level where, working with the police somehow, gave me this framework, and I just wanted to, go outside of this framework and to grow. Indeed. And this was the summer of 2017, where I've met, I drank a coffee with a very good friend of mine, and, I just, very briefly talked with him about my ideas, basically to start looking for new opportunities outside of the police. And I didn't have any idea actually what to do outside of the police. First of all, my idea maybe came to start work as a quality assurance engineer. Mm-hmm. So to start work with the QA. But then when I talked to him, and he said, well, QA, if you are not really a developer, if you have never been dealing with that, probably might be really tough for you. Well, and I said, well, what exactly to start with in this case? And he said, well, why not you just continue doing the same thing, what you've done here in the police 7 years, but just do this in the private sector. And I said, well, but I cannot do policing in the private sector. And he said, policing not, but cyber security is what you can do in the private sector. So basically, he was the person, and back to your question, what has inspired me, I will transform the question, who has inspired me? And exactly, this was this friend of mine who actually just gave me this idea to, continue doing what I have been doing in the police, but now in the private perspective. And very organically, I just, moved, and now I'm dealing with cyber security as a consultancy and helping actually the same way as I have been, doing this in the police, helping people. Now I do this, but helping companies and as well, and of course, people as well, but helping them straighten more their cyber security.
Okay, nice. So given the current situation, what advice can you give to all people that are working remotely now and are working from their homes?
Yeah, well, the pandemic coronavirus spread away across the globe is really, actually, the one positive thing out of this is that this gives us a lot of opportunities to furthermore rediscover the opportunities of digitalization, of transformation of our digital lives. And we see that especially within the Ministry of Education. The teachers in the country, they just needed a couple of days to totally shift their way of teaching with their students remotely. And we have a very, kind of Bulgarian way of saying whatever cannot be done by the easy way can be done by the hard way. And actually, the coronavirus made exactly this. A lot of the businesses, a lot of companies, they have been pushed to just switch to remote working. So maybe the only positive thing out of the coronavirus is that actually this gave us a lot of another way of thinking of doing the same thing, but now remotely, which on the other side possess a lot of disadvantages and a lot of obstacles. And they came from, the obstacles from the hackers. Just the same way as we are pushed to stay at our homes, it means that the hackers, which generally we are trying to get them out of their homes, not to make, bad things. Now they're pushed to stay at their homes. And we have to think about this because those people, the black hat hackers, staying in their homes, they don't have anything else to do except just, start attacking our infrastructure, our business, our computers, our devices. So that's why when we talk about remote working, we have to, follow very, very basic measures and rules for, as we, the professionals, call it, cyber hygiene for cyber security. The first thing is we have to think about how do we get internet connection in our homes. The easy way is just, using a Wi-Fi router. So first we have to think about securing the Wi-Fi router. I've seen in my career many people are, they're putting passwords so easy guessable, like their phone numbers or ID numbers or I don't know.
Or 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, for instance. So this kind of password is not secured at all. And we have to know that, using software tools like Hydra, for instance, one of the penetration testing tools, it can happen just in about a minute to break this kind of password. So the very first barrier of this layered defense, which we have to build up in our homes, is really to construct and to secure our router. First of all, to use one of the hardest possible protection and encryption, so the VPA2 encryption protocol, and secondly, to really construct a password which is complicated, at least what I can suggest 12 characters long, and a combination of small and capital letters, digits, and special characters. So securing our Wi-Fi connection, and not just one securing, but also keep monitoring which are the connected devices to our router. This will bring us information if somebody is trying to access our network. So securing the Wi-Fi network is one step. The second one being in our home, we need actually to access the infrastructure of our business. So how we can achieve that? Through VPNs. It's not so easy. I mean, it's really ridiculous if you let your employees to access your infrastructure without using a virtual private network solution, just because everybody can just interact and can snip the for sensitive information coming from your home to your infrastructure. So using VPN clients is a mandatory. A lot of VPN solutions are available out there on the market. So just look for it and try to deploy a VPN solution so that all your employees who are working now remotely can access through the VPN the infrastructure of your business. And this you will ensure actually that your infrastructure is safe and you can provide secured connection between your core servers and your employees working remotely. On the other hand, also we need to secure our endpoint device. So meaning the computer, the tablet, and even our mobile device if it's a business property. So how we can achieve this here? Of course, very easy way, just implementing antivirus solutions to our devices, and also implementing mobile device management. Mobile device management is this part of...
I'm sorry, to secure the devices, you mean that we should set passwords from them and to install antivirus program? Or
not only. No, well, you are on the right direction to secure the device itself. Of course, we have to implement this locking out automatic feature of our devices. So not to be our laptop or desktop monitor being open to everybody who wants to access it, even if they live in our home. Still, we have to make this kind of rules so that our laptop will lock out automatically in, let's say, 5 minutes. And also to establish this kind of our habits to every time when we stand out, just to lock up our laptop. And secondly, yes, installing antiviruses on our devices so that if a malware somehow has been deployed on our machine, so that the antivirus to be able to detect it and to destroy it. Although most of my colleagues and myself even, we don't really believe antivirus systems, but this is just our way of thinking. And the reason behind that is that we think that sometimes the antivirus softwares, they're providing us this fake way of thinking that we are secure, but in fact we're not really. And if you have a very basic example, if you create a malware on yourself and just deploy it and upload it into VirusTotal, for instance, you're gonna see that just a couple of them can detect the very new created malwares, but the others, they're just not detecting it. So having an antivirus on your system, you may think, okay, I'm secure, but in fact you're not really. So the reason, what you can do in this situation is just be very careful. Just rely on your own ideas and security techniques which you know. But of course, if you talk about regular users who are not cybersecurity professionals, antivirus is a way of solution. And here I can open, a very generic discussion about the person, the employee itself. Many years in our cybersecurity lecture, there is a saying that the employees actually are the weakest possible chain of security within the organization. I don't really think so. My idea is that we have to look at the employees as a way of, for instance, firewall. So the firewall is a device, but without the proper set of rules, can detect nothing. So my point is that you have the firewall, you have the human firewall. So the employees, you have to convert them into human firewalls. Meaning that if you educate them well, if you train them well to detect attacks, then you have a perfect solution actually to protect your company and yourself itself. So investing in the employees integration, in the employees awareness and employees training, so to make these human firewalls applicable to your infrastructure as well. Another way of securing the devices, as I already have mentioned, mobile device management. Basically, it's a way of securing your devices through installing an agent, and somebody, an IT administrator, can remotely access your device and can control your device through implementing different policies to forbidden different kind of activities on your device, or if the device has been somehow stolen, let's say it's a laptop or a mobile device or a cell phone, can remotely, first of all, wipe all the information on it and then secure the information. Because the device itself is just a hardware. What really matters here is just the information.
The software, yeah.
The software, the information itself. We have to be very careful in terms of COVID-19 and this, virus infection, that many attackers now are taking the lead of it and start sending a lot of phishing emails. We've seen that in the last couple of days, weeks, that more and more hackers are trying to, take advantage of this and basically start sending phishing emails, pretending they are coming from the World Health Organization or the government or I don't know, whoever. But basically what they are trying to achieve is to first try to extract sensitive information from your site. So like asking you, where have you been the last time where you have met people? And in this way, for instance, they can make a pattern. For example, where are you going, for instance? Or sending you a PDF file or a Word document saying, here's a basic rules of better protection, download and follow the rules. But in fact, it could be easily actually a malware, could be a macro virus or whatever. And just by deploying it on your computer, you can easily become infected.
But how can you know which information is fake and which one is not?
You're opening a very interesting topic of how we can detect a phishing mail. Yeah. So how we can understand where the information is true or false is another topic. Okay. And unfortunately, there was a research last year, which unfortunately shows that Bulgarians are on the last place of people within the European Union who can actually detect which information is true or false. So we really have to work harder on this to make ourselves confident how to understand which information is true and which is false. A very basic idea is just to double check or triple check this information from 3 different sources, for instance, like the journalists are doing. So not to believe on one and only source of information, but just double or triple check this information. On the other hand, how to detect whether an email can be a phish mail or not. First of all, we have to know that those guys, the hackers, they're really following this trendy kind of activities. So every time when we have something trendy going on globally, we first have to think about this might be something fishy. So for instance, the last year, you remember this big hack, a breach of information from the National Revenue Agency here in Bulgaria. Just days later, the hackers started sending phishing mails saying you have your information has been disclosed because of this hack. Click here to secure your information or something like this way. So every time when we have something trendy, be very careful in the next couple of days, weeks. On the other hand, usually the phishing mails, they're giving this sense of urgency. We see that your account has been locked out, or we have detected, for instance, abnormal activity to your account. Click here to secure your password. Click here to secure your account. So if you get this, or the last...
You get this serious.
Absolutely. So when you have this kind of urgency feeling, the idea behind this urgency is really the hackers want to make you not have enough time to think carefully about this. So when you feel this sense of urgency, just step away, think very carefully. All right, let me think. What will happen if I do not follow what I'm instructed here? So this is the right way of thinking. On the other hand, usually the phishing mails are 3 different types. The first type are phishing mails, and the vast majority of them are phishing mails with attachments. So phish mails sending different attachments like PDF files, Word documents, or ISO files, for instance. And what's here very critical, and this is very trendy since the autumn from 2019 to now. Many attackers are sending ISO files just because with the new version of Windows 10 operating system.
Yeah, you can see the extension.
First, and the second, if you just double click on the ISO file, it will be automatically virtualized as a virtual disk, and it will be mounted to your operating system, and meaning plug and play, automatically executed. So that be very careful when you see ISO file. About the extensions, that's another idea. For instance, the file could be called whatever.exe.pdf or my mistake.
And by default, you can't see the extension in Windows.
Yes, so the file will be called whatever.pdf.exe, and when you have this in Windows operating systems, in the folder rule not to see an already known extensions, you will not see the exe, you will just see the PDF. Yeah. So be very careful with that. So my suggestion, go to the folder options and try to uncheck to hide the known extensions, because in this way you cannot see the real extension of the file. And secondly, whenever you have an attachment in a mail, just download the attachment, but do not open it. Just go and check it with publicly available free resources like VirusTotal, for instance. So upload the file. Within a couple of seconds, you will understand whether this is a virus or not in a very basic, once again, checks. The other second popularity of the phishing mails is when they have not an attachment but embedded or include a fish link. So basically, they have a link which just by following the link, you are redirected to a page, most of the cases, of course, phishing page, where you will be requested to provide your credentials or your credit card information or whatsoever. So when you see a URL attached in the body of your mail, and no matter if it's written, I don't know, softtuernia.bg, you know that this might be just a hyperlink behind this text, might be something different, not what is written there. So my advice here, without clicking, just pointing the mouse over the hyperlink of the text, for instance, softtuernia.bg, on the bottom left corner of your browser, it will be written the place, the URL, where you will be redirected as soon as you click on this link. And when you see that in the text of the mail, it talks about softtuernia.bg, but in fact, in the bottom left corner, you see something totally different, then just do not click it. And the third fish mail.
And maybe the HTTP protocol that provide the website, is that important? Check it.
Absolutely. So, first of all, be very careful. Look for websites which are with SSL certificate embedded. So do not provide any sensitive information in the normal HTTP website, just because whatever you provide there can be easily sniffed, because the information is transmitted in a clear text. So that's really a gap, a vulnerability in the security. So always look for the HTTPS to have your website, and also check the domain history. Who owns the domain? Where the domain has been hosted from the previous years? When the domain has been registered, whether it has been registered before a couple of days or it has a history of a couple of years. Also, you can check the historical way how the website has been presented through a website which is well known, archive.org. So you can see how the website has been seen in the previous years. And when you collect all of this information about the website, when it's protected, when it has a history, when you know the information who is behind this website, then, and once again,
you can give something.
You can give something as as an information which you are asked. And the third, which is the least really possible way of phishing mails, is when you don't have any attachments, when you don't have any URLs, but the email, the text itself is asking you to give back, to reply on information which might be crucial and confidential for you or for the company where you work. So in this scenario, take a look of the reply to. It's a very common way of the attack vector when the attackers are spoofing the email address where they are sending the mail from. For instance, I can easily spoof the email and I can, pretend that I am sending an email on behalf of you without even you being aware of that. But when I want to get back the information, if the user reply to this mail, the information will go directly to you, but I don't have access to your mail account. So what the attackers are doing here, in the reply to, they're specifying their real email address where they can receive this information. So open the email header. Open the email header, and you're gonna observe where, for instance, the email came from Anthonia, but in fact the reply to goes to Lyubomir. So in this case, do not reply to, because this information will not go to you, who is the requester of this information, but somebody else. So these are some of the techniques how we can detect the phishing mails. And also, sometimes they're trying to make them be very luxury for instance, providing logos, official-looking way of pretending so that the mail is really legitimate. So, like putting a signature, a legitimate signature, where they can get the signature from the sales department, for instance. So if I pretend to be a customer and if I write to softtuernia, to the sales department or the contact department, they will reply me with probably their signature. So I can get the signature from there, and then I can use to create my own fish mail and to start attacking your client.
But I didn't understand this one. You want to say that someone can send emails like from my mail the same, or it has some differences?
Exactly the same. And this technique is called spoofing. Yeah. And
it's a little creepy.
It is creepy. And unfortunately, you cannot detect this. Yeah, because you see that it's coming from, well, you can detect, but it relies a lot of cybersecurity way of understanding.
It's not
so easy for the regular people. For the more sophisticated users, how you can understand that is through the email header. So when you open the email header, no matter it's written that it's coming from Anthonia, whatever, at softtuernia BG, for instance, you can easily observe what is the IP address of the server. And when you check the server behind the softtuernia.bg, and when you get the IP, for instance, is in Bulgaria, but when you get in the email header that the server which this mail came from is somewhere in the, I don't know, Philippines, for instance, then this is the clue.
Yes, but you can't check all the emails that you received.
Just, you have to have this feeling. Yeah, as a matter of fact. So, it sounds really, maybe complex, but believe me, when you already has established this kind of habits, as the cybersecurity professionals we have, it's just a way of, something totally regular for us. So we can inspect this kind of phishing mails in just a couple of seconds and to get this feeling that it's a phishing mail. So back to our main topic about the coronavirus and working remotely, be very careful about phishing mails. Just because they can try with those kind of mails to get to reach your device, to deploy a malware, so to infect your device, and the fact that you are accessing an infrastructure of your business then means that you can actually compromise your entire business. And here's what are the disadvantages, is that when you have 100 employees working on the same space in the same building of your company, then you just need to secure this company infrastructure. But when you have 100 employees working in their homes, this means 100 opportunities more for the hacker, and meaning that he doesn't have now just the chance to attack the infrastructure of the company, but now he has possibility to attack all of these 100 employees. So you really have to become a human firewall to protect the infrastructure of your business. What else can I advise here is accept the phishing mails, accept the VPN networks, accept the Wi-Fi protection, accept the mobile device management. On the other hand, when we work remotely, we can use this time for our future improvements and cybersecurity awareness. So it's a kind of idea to everybody, to the employers who are listening to us and watching us right now. Give the opportunity, give the chance to your employees during this time to furthermore raise their awareness. So provide them a lot of video trainings, modules, so to teach them really to detect all of these possible attack vectors.
Yeah, it's important to provide some training about this.
It is important, in relation to the cyber crimes. So to prevent the cyber crimes, a couple of statistics. For instance, for 2015, the cyber crimes cost globally was estimated as $3 trillion. And now for 2020 year, Europol estimates that by the end of this year, the cost globally for the cyber crimes will be something like $6 trillion. So which means double just for 5 years. And the reason is very obstacle. We see a lot of rise in ransomware attacks, and ransomware, for those of our listeners and students who are listening to us, will just say a few words that ransomware is this type of attack where it's a kind of virus. So it's a subcategory of viruses where actually you are infecting somebody's computer, and just by disinfection you are encrypting all the files which are present, which this computer possess. So all the files there, they still remain there, but they are encrypted. So you cannot do anything with them. You cannot open them. Unless.
So for what you can use them?
Wow. All right. So here's the answer. And the answer is in the way of the attack. It's called ransomware. So these encrypted files, in order to decrypt them, you're asked for a ransom. So your background on the desktop is being changed, and usually there's a sentence in English saying that, well, you have been hacked with ransomware. In order to get your files back decrypted, you have to pay a ransom, money, and here's the Bitcoin wallets which you have to send the money to. Usually the ransom really vary, but sometimes it varies between 0.5 to 1 Bitcoin per attack. And right now, 1 Bitcoin is being traded for 6.5 thousand US dollars. Yeah, something like this one. So it's a lot of money actually to get your files back. And what is more even ridiculous, and this is really
so if I don't want to decrypt my files,
well, then you are just losing your files. The protection behind this is regular backups, or totally regular backups. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you create a backup file, do not store it on the same device. Store it somewhere on the cloud.
In some cloud,
in the cloud or external hard drives, because, being part of the police, when I worked there, and this kind of attacks started back in 2014, something like that. So they're not so trendy right now. They're very old way of attacks, but we had a lot of companies, a lot of businesses coming to our police structure and saying, we have been hacked by ransomware, but the good thing is that we have a backup. And I was, all right, that's great. So where's the backup? Well, it's on the same device right here. So absolutely, it will be encrypted as well. So the rescue here is to have a backup stored somewhere remotely on a cloud, on external hard drive, and this backup should be accurate. So maybe if you ask me what does it mean accurate, I would say at least once per week. And secondly, really to have a very good antiviruses so that they can detect this. And once again, you have to become a human firewall, so to detect this way of attacking your machine, so to better protect. What is even more painful now, starting in 2020, is that so far the attack was just related with infecting your files, paying the ransom. And here's the tricky part. Even if you pay the ransom, nobody can guarantee that you'll get the decryption key back, just because they are hackers. So they really want to get the money, and they don't really care about your
files.
Absolutely, your files. So basically, if you are infected with ransomware, you're screwed up if you don't have a backup. So my advice, never pay the ransom. Nobody can guarantee you that they will give you back the decryption key. You'll just lose some money. But this was with the ransom. And now with 2020, what we see is that it's getting more and more popular, not just your files to be encrypted. So that's why we call it ransomware 2.0. But your files, while being encrypted, they're also copied on the hacker's machine. And even if you pay the ransom or not, this information is being provided for selling in the dark market, in the dark net. And you can imagine that if a very big company...
How can you understand that information is leaked on the other computer of the hacker?
Just with the fact that you are infected with this ransomware, you have to know that already this hacker has access to your files. So as soon as you are infected, this hacker has access to your files. It wasn't really interesting for them to, sell this information so far, just because they were really caring about money. But what they see now is that people are not paying the money, the ransom, much more like before. And that's why what they really care is just, to get some money from. So they're selling this this information to competitors in the dark market, for instance. So you can imagine if a big organization, which deals with millions of potential users with their personal data, information, medical information, especially, what kind of a breach this might be if they are infected with a ransomware virus, for instance. I'll just remind everybody who listens to us now that back in 2016, there was one very popular ransomware, which is called WannaCry. Maybe you've heard about it. Petya then later on. But WannaCry infected over 60% of the entire hospitals and medical system in UK. So you can imagine what kind of a million of information about million of users of people there has been encrypted. The good thing is that this information hasn't been stolen. Well, we'll say that. Nobody can guarantee. But the ransomware, so be very careful about that.
Okay, so in general, not only in the current situation, what are the most common attacks on the average user? Well,
definitely when we talk about the business, the ransomware, that's what we see here. This infection with ransomware, encrypting files, this is really the average, the vast majority of the cases which we are dealing with, being part of the police and now in the private sector. That's what I face almost every second or third time with a company facing different problems. On the other part, another attacks which may happen to businesses, to people, are usually related with their credentials and hacking their different profiles and tenants in different cloud storages, for instance. And it is related with your way of creating passwords and behaving with passwords and possessing and storing and protecting your passwords. Because people are being very easily hacked, their Facebook profiles, their mailboxes. On the other side, businesses very easily, they can be compromised there. For instance, accounts in, some of the major cloud platforms. And so be very careful with the passwords. And the passwords, they're related with several attacks. So credentials harvesting, password spraying. On the other hand, brute forcing. If you have, for instance, web application and the login portal is not secured with a strong password, as I already have mentioned, the Hydra, for instance, is a tool which can easily break this password protection with a couple of minutes or hours if the password is a little bit more complicated. So be very careful with the passwords. That's the major advice here, except the ransomware. What else? The availability of the information. So we as a cybersecurity professionals, that's what we say to our customers, that we always have to think about three elements of the information. It's confidentiality, its integrity, and its availability. So the first thing, confidentiality, means that we have to protect our data at all the time, at any stage, not to become, in a possession of somebody who hasn't the right permission to access this data. Meaning that we have to back up the information all the time. We have to protect with different implementation of different access controls to this data. So meaning that we have to implement two-factor authentication, better passwords, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, integrity. We have to protect this information not to be changed or modified or altered by an attacker or by a person who hasn't have the right to change this data. How this can happen is when we talk about developers here, also SQL, different SQL injections. Because with the SQL injections, we can actually give access to somebody, a hacker, to get access to our backend, to our database, and modify the data there. So protect your backends to protect these SQL queries, which you can process before being processed to very, very carefully being sanitized, so that not to make SQL injection possible, which something what actually has happened with the National Revenue Agency. Or at least these are
SQL injection?
These are the rumors. These are the rumors. Of course, we still don't have any confirmation about that, but these are the rumors that actually it was an SQL injection with one of the very famous tools out there, SQL Map. So that this information, the entire database actually has been dumped with a malformed SQL injection. Yeah. And the third thing, availability, meaning that we have to protect our data, our information to be available at any time when we need it. So, for instance, this morning I was supposed to have a test, an exam on one of the universities where I study. But unfortunately, their website was down. And I was surprised because nowadays I thought that, their servers might be on the cloud. Then, no, they still keep this information on-prem. And basically, they just went out of electricity supply. And they said, well, unfortunately, our electricity has been cut off. And unfortunately, the server is not working currently. So I wasn't being able to access my test.
But you gave them free advice.
Yeah, I gave them a free advice, and it's not really a big deal because the exam has been postponed for tomorrow. But my point is that we really have to make sure that our business will have access to this information at any time. So these are the main advices to the business and to the people to look for.
Okay, I'm currently reading one book, is The Art of Deception by Kevin Mitnick, and it's really interesting.
A great book.
Yeah, because it's kind of examples like social engineering, and my question here is, how can I protect myself from attacks like this? Like if some colleague from other department calls me and wants some information about the company, how can I know and be aware of that?
You said it in the last word of your sentence. You have to be just aware of that. So, The Art of Deception by Kevin Mitnick, and Kevin Mitnick, by the way, is one of the most famous world white hat hackers nowadays. In the past, he was a black hat, but after a couple of
he switched.
a couple of years struggling with the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security in the States, he just decided to become the good guy now, not the bad guy. So he switched. And by the way, he's the inspiration behind one of the best, the world's most famous platform for cybersecurity awareness and training simulations. It's called KnowBe4. So Kevin Mitnick is behind this project, KnowBe4. It's an American product. I have a lot of experience with KnowBe4, and I'm really a fan of Kevin Mitnick, by the way. So The Art of Deception is really giving you some ideas what the attackers may use in order to get advantage on you. So not just the phishing mails, but also the way as they talk and as they, get in touch with you might be in a way of that they want to extract some really sensitive information out of you. So be very careful, not about the phishing mails, but also there's another examples of social engineering attack vectors. For instance, I will mention USB devices, USB flash drives might be another vector. We had an example. We had a test simulation with one of our clients. Yeah, and we have created 20 USB sticks infected with I wouldn't say malware, but let's say a piece of software. As soon as you plug in the USB, we understand that the device has been plugged in, and who is the person behind this? I mean, who is the device name? Which is the device name? So just to make sure that if it was some real malware, actually we could infect easily the computer and then the entire infrastructure on the other page. So we have created 20 USB sticks, intentionally infected with this kind of piece of software for tracking, and we have thrown the USB devices just innocent looking places like conference rooms, the reception, and stuff like that. What was the result? What was the result is, first of all, we are in Bulgaria, so all the 20 USB devices has been stolen. So it's normal. We're in Bulgaria. So all of them have been collected by the employees of this company. But out of these 20 USB devices, 5 of them have been plugged to the computers, which means 25%. And the reason behind that is that they are very curious. So when you have a USB stick, absolutely, and just left on the conference in a conference room or on the reception, of course you would be willing to check what is inside. And I remember now another simulation which I was involved and which we have created with another client of us. We have targeted not just the reception or the sales department, which are usually the most vulnerable positions in a company, but we have targeted the IT department. So people who are supposed to know about these techniques, right? So what we've done, we have sent a mail, a phishing mail, presenting. So a couple of words behind that.
Only to the IT department?
Only to the IT department. So we have sent a phishing mail. And in this mail, we spoofed the address, pretending that this mail was coming from their chief executive officer. And it was kind of presenting a forwarded already conversation. A couple of words behind that. So this company was in a bout of merging with another big company. And because of this merging process, they were discussing about the future cuttings in the company. So the text in the mail was something like guys, these were the information about our future cuttings in the company, which we have decided. Please keep this information confident. So far, so that after a confirmation about the positions, then we'll disseminate this information to our colleagues. And you know that even if you are an IT guy, when you get a mail with an attached Excel file, as Excel spreadsheet, and it should be
from the CTO.
From the CEO of the company, presenting that these are possible cuttings. Of course, you would be willing to check whether you are part of this list or not. So the art of deception is really teaching you how you can take advantage of the way how the people are thinking. So USB devices, phishing mails, also smishing and phishing attack vectors. Smishing, very couple of words. It's a way of sending a phishing information the same way with the emails, but using a text message. So sending an SMS, and again, you're just presenting the information. For instance, your account has been compromised. Click here to secure your account. And again, URL. And when the person clicks on this URL, they basically he or she gets to a phishing page. And then from the phone, once again, you can easily provide an information. And even with the browsers of the phone is even more. It's even tougher because you cannot very well see the URL of the URL link, of the URL field, because it's a small, tiny window. It's not like on the computers. So be very careful about the smishing attacks. And what you have mentioned in the beginning of this question, phishing. It stands for voice solicitation. So voice phishing, basically. Yeah. It's a way how you can actually call somebody, presenting and pretending to be somebody else and trying to extract information.
But your voice is not the same.
Your voice is not the same, but you have to be aware that there are applications which can actually spoof your phone number. The same way as you are spoofing the mail address, I can now call a friend of yours presenting that I'm calling from your phone number directly to him or to her without you even being aware about it. And it's a normal technique which we are aware of. So even when you see that somebody who is a person in your contact list is calling you, you have not to be always sure that indeed this is this person. So the art of deception, Kevin Mitnick is just really teaching you about all of these ways of how people are thinking and just taking advantage of this. So the easy answer, just be very careful. Just you have to train the people, you have to train yourself what are the attack vectors and how to recognize them in order to better protect.
Yeah. Out of the topic, but can you recommend more books about like this one, and we can list them in the description after that?
Well, the art of deception is just the golden medal when we talk about social engineering. Of course, if I cannot now remember the other titles, but if you just Google it, there's a lot of topics, a lot of books written on this topic of social engineering.
Okay, so my next question is about learning. So if I want to become a cybersecurity expert, what do I need to start to learn now? Some programming skills, networking knowledge, and what else do I need? Like technical stuff.
Well, cybersecurity, and if you want to be really an expert, if you're just a
maybe the expert comes with the years of practice.
Exactly. And when you also improve your skills, not vertically, but horizontally. What I mean, when you put a lot of efforts to improve yourself in one and specific only topic, only field of cybersecurity, yeah, of course, you will become an expert in this field, but you'll be just an expert on this field, but not on cybersecurity generally. So, for instance, when we talk about cyber forensics, and cyber forensics is, this part of cybersecurity where you investigate different hacks already happened, incident response and stuff like that. So if you really evaluate furthermore on this topic, of course you'll become an expert, but on cyber forensics only. If you are a penetration tester, if you are looking for vulnerabilities in the infrastructure of the companies which are your clients, and if you furthermore put on efforts and knowledge and educate yourself in this field of penetration tester, then you become just an expert in a penetration tester.
Yeah.
My point is that if you want to become an expert on cybersecurity, then you have to put a lot of efforts in different fields, because the cybersecurity expert is a person who has a broad overview of everything what's going on there. If you really want to become a cybersecurity expert, you have to have a knowledge about cyber forensics, penetration testing, about consultancy. So to understand how to implement different controls in the infrastructure. Even when we talk about networking, to have a basic understanding in the beginning, but also then to furthermore improve your understanding about how different devices like intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, firewalls, honeypots, how the infrastructure, how the network itself operates, so that to have a broad overview how to protect your organization. So the position of the cybersecurity expert is the position of a person who takes care about all the different aspects of the organization, meaning that you have to have really understanding about everything that. So how you should start with, of course, it's very, very related maybe with networking. So if you have a networking background, this will be a very good start for you just to jump and just to switch to start working on to become a cybersecurity expert. But also, if you are a developer, this might be also very important for you, especially some of the languages like PHP, JavaScript, which are now more and more used in web application writing, for instance, the front end. And when we talk about penetration testing, especially web application testing, you cannot go without having knowledge about PHP and JavaScript nowadays. So my point is how you can become a cybersecurity expert. A lot of years of experience, and believe me, a lot of dedication of your time in all the different aspects of this cybersecurity field.
Okay, and the last question for today is, do you think the demand of cybersecurity experts will increase?
Oh yeah, indeed. some of the researches about IBM, for instance, if I'm not wrong, in the last couple of months for 2019, they have estimated that by the end of 2020, there will be a gap of 3.5 million cybersecurity experts globally. So you can imagine how, a big number of cybersecurity professionals is that. And moreover, the COVID infection will pass at some stage. And I hope it will be by the end of April, or I hope so, at least in the beginning of May.
I thought that you will say at the end of the year, but...
No. I'm a positive. I'm optimistic. So yeah, I think that the Bulgarian government is doing really well, a great job actually to keep really this infection in the minimum levels of being infected the people. So I really expect that in the beginning, let's say in May, probably we will already pass this phenomena, this pandemic infection. But with this pandemic infection, we see that now businesses are thinking more and more about transforming, digitalizing their business, meaning that even after this infection, in my opinion, the need to transform your business into the into the digital space will be even more and more, which the businesses are looking for. And as the businesses are moving more and more to the cloud and to the cybersecurity field, meaning that more and more people, cybersecurity professionals will be needed. And now we see that the Ministry of Education, a lot of conferencing is taking place there. It's another way of gap where actually the attackers can attack us on using the different conferencing tools. If they are not protected, they can easily sniff this conversation, which means that, because I've heard the Minister of Education was saying that even after the COVID-19 infection, they will try to push this way of, digital education, which means on the other hand, that they will need consultancy, they will need a support from cybersecurity professionals in order not just to transform this business into the cloud, but also to better protect it. So my point is, now we see all the advantages of working remotely, of using cyber and internet and the digital advantages, which means that after that, a lot of the businesses will still want to remain there, which means that they will need to hire, they will need the consultancy of cybersecurity professionals. So yeah, I definitely foreseen that the demand of the need of cybersecurity professionals will rise, will grow by the end of this year and in the next couple of years. And especially this service, which is called managed cybersecurity services, because many businesses, they will not have enough money or efforts to hire a cybersecurity professional, to educate, to train him, to certify him. And also he will need a lot of expertise. He will need a lot of years of experience in order really to be a good cybersecurity professional. But on the other hand, outsourcing is definitely what Bulgaria is famous with. So outsourcing of cybersecurity is rising and is getting more and more popular. So instead of companies hiring such professionals, they can easily just outsource this kind of services to somebody else, to another company, which can actually manage this solution, these services on behalf of them.
Yeah, and this is a really good solution most of the times. Okay, so Lubu, thank you for your participation.
Thank you for inviting me. It was really a great conversation, and I hope the guys who are listening to us really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, and thank all the listeners. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.